with is what's going on up to the north. So the slow slip's carrying on. Just showed it to you. Let's show it to you again here. Hold on. Here it is. Here is yesterday. And let's go forward to today. They don't have any earthquakes listed, really? No. Okay, now they do. Something's going on with this site, guys. It's very strange because, you know, I just showed it to you and it didn't show it. Now I'm showing it to you and it does show it. Look at the cluster of earthquakes in Oregon, north of Grants Pass, north of Roseburg, south of Eugene. This is a new location to start slipping with dozens of earthquakes. If we go back a couple days, again, let's go back. Let's go back. See? Okay, it's moved. It's moved from at Grants Pass to the north. Let's go back a day before that. And go back a day before that. See how it's down in California? Go back a day before that, back up in Oregon. It's bouncing around, guys. There is movement happening that's bouncing around on the edge of the slow slip. See, now we're back on April 29th when we were really getting concerned about California. See? See that? I mean, this is amazing to me to see this happen. Now, wait till I bring it forward. As I bring it forward, you're going to really be blown away. You're going to see it transfer all around the area. So, let's go forward now. So you see how it's up at Vancouver and down in Oregon? Next day, down in California. Next day, down in California. Next day, down in California. By this time, I'm talking about it, showing it, talking about where it's going, what's going on, issuing warnings for California. Then the 4.0 hits off the coast after this. 4.2 hits off the coast of Oregon. And then it shifts. Boom. Right? So, what's going on right now? The 4.2 off the coast of Oregon at the central fulcrum point apparently has redirected pressure that's coming in from the west. And this brings us up to, basically up to current today. So here we are on the 9th. So, what's going on? Let's go back over to Oregon, show you guys there. The 4.2 that struck off the coast struck out here on the Juan de Fuca. And over to the east, this is the spot we're talking about right in here. This is the new spot that's starting to move. Okay, so here's Roseburg, and that's the central point. Let's go due west. Look what's due west of here. Just go out to the sea. Look, boom, right to where that we saw our previous 4.2 just strike. So it's a new centralized point where now the slow slip is taking place from where the 4.2 took place offshore, inland, all the way to Roseburg. That's what's happening right now. That's the new status update. Now, when it comes to earthquakes, actual earthquakes, not tremors, but actual seismic events, you're going to see, of course, that we have a cluster of actual earthquakes in the Puget Sound, just west-southwest of downtown Seattle on the Olympic Peninsula. Well, the Olympic Peninsula is where this whole slow slip mess started back 8 weeks ago, or 9 weeks ago almost at this point. But now we're returning, and instead of tremors, we've got earthquakes. And they made the distinction. I didn't. They did. They said tremors are not earthquakes, and they were chastising me for calling them earthquakes. I say microquakes. Microquakes are small zeros and ones. Well, that's what these are, all these little tremors. And now we shift to earthquakes. Well, guys, it means there's an increase in power going on across the area. So if I were to look, and I'm going to now have to cancel, we're going to cancel the warning for the West Coast. Why are we canceling the warning for the West Coast? Well, first of all, it's been 10 days. Secondly, the slow slip has bounced around, as I just showed you, between north-south center. So north-south center, or center-north-south, depending on which way you want to start the count. But it's going on the West Coast in 3 different areas. So the slow slip is carrying on. That's what's going on, guys. It is carrying on. Now, they said it stopped in April. But I just showed it to you going on all across 3 to 4 states every day, moving in clusters of, 50, 100 earthquakes, and in some cases, hundreds and hundreds of earthquakes, like down in California just a couple days ago. Now that it's shifted into central Oregon, and we had the 4 off the coast just a few days ago, which I should bring back on the screen just so everybody can see it. Now that that's all taken place, I'm concerned that as long as this carries on, it's going to keep adding more power to the overall punch. But here's where see the 4.2 off the coast? I mean, come on, what are the chances? What are the chances? It's striking directly parallel to where the new part of the slow slip's taking place in Roseburg. Now, are we going to see something larger? I don't normally slow slip forecast. The only answer I have for you is yes. Yes, we are. We have to. Because you can't get thousands of earthquakes moving across 600 miles for 8 or 9 weeks' time. One of the longest slow slips I've ever heard of. And that's taken across 3 states. That means 3 states have moved over 9 weeks, and the areas on either side and in the middle are under serious stress. Well, what's on either side of the slow slip area? Either side of the slow slip area is Northern California at the Gorda Escarpment at Eureka, and to the north, up here at North Vancouver Island. Those are the 2 spots on either side. And then our middle point is where it just so happens to be the most famous fault zone in the world, I think, the Cascadia Subduction Zone, Juan de Fuca Fracture Zone, Cleft Segment Axial Seamount, where the eruption happened just, a couple of years ago. All right? So, yeah, a new volcano popped off here out in the sea a couple of years ago, and it made international news. So, I'm going to cancel the warning. And we're going to cancel the warning and take it down to a watch. Now, in meteorology, the difference between a warning and a watch is huge, and for me, it also is. It's a huge difference. A warning is we're looking for it to happen within days. It's imminent. There's, a reason for us to look for it to happen within days, and so forth. Now, taking it down to a watch means I'm still going to be watching it. I'm going to be watching every day as the slow slip carries on. But as the slow slip carries on, I don't think we're going to be seeing a large earthquake mixed in with that, other than what we've currently been seeing, 4s and 5s mixed in with this overall slow slip event of thousands of smaller earthquakes. But it's covering 600 miles, which means the whole Cascadia Subduction Zone is moving, and that's a new development that I think professionals are going to need to address at this point, because I just showed it to you. The scientific evidence proves it to you. In the last month, north, central, south, all moving in clusters of a few dozen to a few hundred earthquakes at a time, and stopping in a few spots to let off a few, a few hundred earthquakes in one spot, and then maybe go to a few thousand in another, like what happened up to the north. So as it goes on, I'm watching every day, and you need to watch every day too. This is like the steady drip filling a bucket. Okay, it's just going to take some time, and eventually, on both sides, we're going to see compensation movement. And in the middle, we've already seen it. So both sides are moving now. The middle has moved in the past day. It's going to repeat itself. Now, this earthquake up here in Alaska at the Canada border, by the way, right next to one of my viewers, I wrote one of my viewers. The day I wrote my viewer here, they live in Whitehorse, which is literally right next to the earthquake swarm. I wrote somebody in Yukon, and then the earthquake swarm struck. I'm not saying I caused it or anything. It's just the weirdest coincidence in the world. But I went up to the post office to go get something, or to go mail their postcard, and I go to the post office, and there is a package from Whitehorse, Yukon, to me the day that the earthquake hit. Isn't that just crazy? Well, anyways, they're still getting hit by a swarm, and that's to be expected because, well, guys, it was a noteworthy sized earthquake that kicked it all off. That 6 up here put pressure immediately down the edge of the plate, and it lit up the United States over the past several days. I mean, take a look at it, guys. Look at the edge of the craton. Starting up at Yellowstone, going down throughout Idaho and Colorado. Yellowstone inside the park itself, 3.0 and 2.6. Then 2.7 down south and southeast Idaho. Then a 3.3 in western Colorado at the fracking operations. You may remember we issued a warning for Colorado this week. Then in western Texas, okay, fracking operation, Snyder, Texas, Central Texas, fracking operations in Oklahoma and Kansas all hit, and then light activity over to the east at the New Madrid seismic zone. But all same-sized earthquakes. You see how many 2.7s and 2.6s there are? 2.6, 2.7, 2.6, 2.7, 2.6, 2.7, and a 2.7. And then we topped out at a few 3s mixed in with that. But I think this proves to anybody who'd look at the map, look, we've got our red arrow on the map, and the earthquakes follow that red arrow. Not because I'm some kind of magician that makes earthquakes follow arrows. It's because over time we've observed that this is the way that the pressure overall transfers across the plate.